In the headlines, the Senate is poised to remove all unprogrammed allocations in the proposed 2026 national budget, except those covered by foreign-assisted projects. The Blockchain Council of the Philippines is looking to place the budget of the Department of Public Works and Highways on the blockchain. And calls escalate to strengthen the Independent Commission on Infrastructure as it investigates and makes accountable those involved in the anomalous flood control projects. The Philippines' former finance secretary joins us for a discussion on corruption and governance as the government corruption investigation deepens. Dr. Jesus Estanislao, founder of the Institute for Solidarity in Asia, joins us live. The Senate will push to remove all unprogrammed funds in the General Appropriations Bill, or GAP. Senate President Tito Soto said in a radio interview yesterday that he found the lump sum allocations under unprogrammed funds, quote, unacceptable. He said the upper chamber would limit unprogrammed funds to necessary foreign-assisted projects. The proposed 2026 budget contains 243 billion pesos worth of unprogrammed appropriations. The 11 listed items include support to foreign-assisted projects worth 97 billion and assistance to social programs worth 45 billion. Soto says funds for programs like assistance to individuals in crisis situations and medical assistance to indigent patients should be programmed into institutions that's supposed to implement them. The Senate will prohibit last-minute amendments, allowing them to introduce changes only on second reading. Soto says senators should request adjusting allocations openly on the Senate floor. The Blockchain Council of the Philippines is looking to place the budget of the Public Works Department on the blockchain within the year. BCP President Donald Patrick Lim says the ambitious initiative is privately funded, with the council working with stakeholders to operate it. The DPWH, BCP, and over 20 groups signed a memorandum of agreement last month to launch the Integrity Chain, a platform where the public can track the status of select infrastructure projects. The BCP will provide DPWH with a one-year free subscription, complete with technical support and cybersecurity safeguards. The pilot run will focus on foreign-assisted projects funded by the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, Japan International Cooperation Agency, and Korean Exim Bank. 34 influential business groups call on President Marcos to give the Independent Commission for Infrastructure more teeth. Business groups, including the Makati Business Club and Management Association of the Philippines, are pressing the president to empower the ICI with full legal authority to undertake its probe on corruption in public works. This is one of the 4 proposals that they hope the president will adopt to address, quote, this historic, massive, and unprecedented scandal. Other recommendations including prosecuting all culprits regardless of position, implementing institutional reforms, and providing regular updates to the public. And we start with our conversation on corruption and governance. Our guest has served as Finance Secretary and NEDA Secretary General during the administration of the late President Corazon Aquino. He is the founder and Chairman Emeritus of the Institute for Solidarity in Asia, a nonprofit which marks its 20th year transforming public governance. Please welcome Dr. Jesus P. Estanislao. It's good seeing you again,
everybody.
Dr. Jess.
Good morning, Cathy.
Welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
So what do you make of what's gone on in terms of accountability, transparency, and governance?
We have really gone down dramatically. When we started ISA 25 years ago, we said to ourselves, the situation is bad out there. We were going through an impeachment proceeding against President Estrada at the time. And my colleagues insisted, instead of just focusing on corporate governance, we had to bring in the public sector. I looked around at the environment. And I said the best way to do it is to start from the ground up. So we started with a number of local government units, as well as a number of national government agencies. And to my pleasant surprise, actually you can find very good leaders at the local level. I, for example, found Jerry Treñas of Iloilo, Jesse Robredo of Naga, and Mel Sarmiento in Samar. And they banded together and say, let's experiment with this balanced scorecard that came out of the Harvard Business School and apply it to our respective cities. Look at Iloilo today. It's a dream city. It has been transformed over many years. And it's amazing what has been done. Same thing is true with Bataan, with Joad Garcia. He was at that time Mayor of Balanga. Amazing what they're able to do. So it became very clear to me that it is possible to have good governance, clean government, a government that delivers, especially at the local level. We're talking about Filipinos. We're talking about the Philippines. We said it can be done.
Have you had a chance to put the DPWH under the scorecard in those 25 years?
Yes, we're able to, and we're very happy working with Secretary Singson. He cleaned DPWH to a very large extent. Now, I do not know what his successor did, but he did not continue the program of Secretary Singson. DPWH was one of our stellar performers. By the way, the same thing is true with the Bureau of Customs. During the presidency of Duterte, in effect, General Guerrero, who was the commissioner of the Bureau of Customs, cleaned up the Bureau of Customs and got recognition from the International Customs Organization as the most improved customs agency anywhere in Asia. Now I understand that they have gone down. So what is very clear, Cathy, is you can find good leaders at the local level, national government agency level. But what you have to make sure that, in fact, the program is sustained.
So how can you sustain it then? I mean, you've seen the good side of what can be done, but then it just ends when there's a change in administration. So what should we do
In the case
and learn from it?
Iloilo, the leader managed to train his successors. And now, in fact, his daughter, after Mayor Mabilog took over, now Iloilo continues to be governed very well. But the best example of what we've done institutionally is the armed forces of the Philippines. In 2010, they were looked down upon by the Filipino people with very low approval ratings. Since then, after they gone through the program, they've been scoring very high in SWS, Pulse Asia, and so on. Filipino regard our armed forces in a very good light. Now, they have managed to institutionalize the transformation because they have a continuous change of leadership, but they've embedded a good governance program so that no chief of staff can just sort of change it, and they've done very well.
So where do we pick up then, as the problem really emanates from the DPWH? It could be other agencies.
Yes.
Where is the ISA going to come in to pick up and help?
Well, we can only help those who would like to help themselves. We're able to work very closely with Secretary Babe Singson, but unfortunately his successor decided not to go together with us.
What about for Vince Dizon? Have you spoken with him? Vince Dizon.
Vince Dizon is just a new appointee. I'm sure that we'll be able to work together with him. We can pick it up. The same thing is true with the DOH. DOH under Secretary Duque pushed our governance program, and they managed very well. Now, he may not have been in total control of everything that was going on in DOH, but that has moved on, and the public hospitals under DOH are continue to move on, and I'm very happy with them, with the results. So we should not lose hope. It is possible to have good governance in this country, but what we need would be strong leadership that is committed to good public service. Unfortunately, we're still looking for those leaders at the national level today.
And that And that includes
And
the
that
leadership at the
includes
top.
the leadership at the top. The moment you have a leader says, I would like to get this done, like General Guerrero of the Bureau of Customs, he got it done. If you have a president of the Philippines that would say, I mean business, I do not want to have hanky-panky with respect to the budget process, he can get it done. Because technically and theoretically, the president of the Philippines should be in control of the entire budget. He's the one that proposes the budget, and he's the one that eventually approves the budget. So he can oversee the entire process. And he would not tolerate any insertions or any great deviation coming from the original budget that was prepared by a joint set of agencies, which includes the Bureau of Budget and Management, the Department of Finance, NEDA. All of that is properly vetted, and the institutional mechanisms are there. We're preparing our budget quite well. But the moment it goes through Congress, you have to oversee it. And the moment it gets to be approved and signed by the president, you have to make sure that it does not deviate from the original proposal.
Well, let's take a look at the budget, because I've spoken with Ken Abante of the People's Budget Coalition, the budget watchdog, just last Friday, and he revealed new calculations for what he calls the pork barrel insertions in the House-approved bill. This is what he said exactly. Let's listen to it.
Our new calculations for the conservative amounts of pork or patronage in this new budget is now at around 256 billion. From our original computation and accounting, that was around 230 billion. So we think there are still pork and patronage projects in this House General Appropriations Bill.
So what do you make of that, Doc Jess? There's a lot more, he says, pork barrel insertions.
Amount, and it's not only taken out of education, social welfare, and public health. It's above all taken the peso counterpart funds for the ODAs, the
Official development assistance.
amounts of money provided by Japan, the United States, the European Union, given to us, and we are supposed to provide peso counterpart fund. According to the rules, it's an automatic appropriation. They disappeared in 2025. And so the Secretary of Finance came around and said, can you support me in getting money coming from various types of agencies like PhilHealth, DBP? And I said, no, I'm not going to sign that. I do not agree. You have to solve the problem where it exists. And that is, they've removed the peso counterpart funds, and therefore, those projects cannot proceed.
Well, the Senate is now saying that it's going to scrap all of the appropriations, unprogrammed appropriations, except for the foreign assisted projects. Will
Well,
that
now
help?
they're saying that, but they removed, in 2025, they removed virtually all of the peso counterpart fund, and that's why they had to scramble. And I simply refused to agree with my fellow secretaries of finance. He said, no, you cannot do that. There's something wrong with the budget process. Solve the problem by not covering it up with money that you get out of PhilHealth, money that you get out of DBP.
So
That's wrong.
what should the Senate do now as it deliberates on the GAB, the General Appropriations
No,
Bill
we're
from
talking
the
about
House?
2026. Hopefully, they've learned their lesson, and therefore we move forward. But the Senate's position is as it should be. It is as mandated by law. All the unprogrammed funds should be set aside, and you should not take money out of the counterpart funding for all ODA projects.
Blockchaining the budget.
Yes.
How important is that? And
It
is that
is
doable,
important.
and will it eradicate corruption?
I have to thank Senator Aquino for introducing that bill, because it enables us to trace where the amounts of money go, and therefore it becomes much more transparent.
And how about blockchaining the live stream of the BICAM Conference Committee? That is a suggestion by the DICT.
Not only a suggestion, it should be done. We need it for our people. People are angry. Hey, you're taking money out of the public treasury in order to put it into your own bank accounts, in order to finance your luxury lifestyle. That is intolerable. We have children that have to go to school and provided for. We have the Department of Health needs quite a lot of help in order to implement the universal health law.
Well, there have been calls to scrap or at least reduce the 12% VAT to give people a break, some kind of relief or support. Are you in favor of that?
Yeah, very much so.
Scrapping or
Scrapping
reducing the 12% VAT to 10%?
Well, I would not reduce. That's not where the problem is. The problem is in the use of the funds that we have collected. By reducing the VAT, it's a band-aid type of solution, and it does not help you for the long term. Keep it there, but make sure that every peso that we collect is spent according to the priorities that have been agreed by the Cabinet Committee and approved by the President, and therefore submitted. That's how the whole process is. Now, Congress is supposed to oversee. Yes, they can say this is too much, this is too little, but they cannot completely overhaul the program by 250 plus billion pesos. Cannot be. It's unconstitutional.
And the people are continuing to protest. The latest one is going to happen tomorrow by the farmers' groups.
I
What
would
do you
support
think
that. I would support that. I would
would
support
appease them?
every action on the part of citizens to voice our dissatisfaction with the current leadership that we have seen in the House of Representatives and before in the Senate with Senate President Escudero. They were in cahoots with one another to make sure that, in fact, these unprogrammed funds will be provided the funding, while the ODAs, for example, or the demands of education, of health, and social welfare should be funded. They removed much of the funding for these agencies and bloated the funding for DPWH.
Well, the People's Budget Coalition is still gunning for a resource person status. When the Senate deliberations do happen, they don't just want to be observers, as they were in the House. Do you think that might make a big difference?
I think they should be given an opportunity. After all, this is supposed to be a people power government. People are supposed to have a say and a participation in the whole process. Unfortunately, the so-called party list that we have in the House of Representatives, we've abused it, and we've allowed the dynasties to control that whole process, which has made the problem much worse. But really, for example, the action of the CBCP to pray, I think that has to be supported. And then the different business groups and civil society groups coming out with a big demonstration in EDSA, that has to be supported. And every opportunity for people to be able to raise and oversee what Congress is doing, that should be supported.
And where ESA comes in, marking your 20th year, and it had to happen in a year where we're facing this, what sort of changes perhaps, or maybe iterations you're hoping to make in your governance scorecard to ensure that this doesn't happen again?
Well, there are two things that we're doing. One is we've already worked with quite a number of national government agencies, with quite a lot of LGUs, and I must say, with all of the publicly listed companies. So that's quite a base. Now, instead of them focusing on their institutional transformation, many of whom have already succeeded, we're putting them together and make them coalesce with one another into a solidarity network. For example, all the public hospitals that we're working with, we're organizing them into a solidarity network to make sure that, in fact, they can get the funding, they can get the programs going, and they can continue to transform themselves. Give them 5 years, they will transform the Philippine health system. The same thing would be true with the national government agencies. I'm very happy with what the armed forces have done. And now they're promoting the national security agenda of the Philippines. They're in need of help coming from the LGUs and coming from the NGAs. What I'm trying to do is to organize all of our institutional partners into a solidarity network to work together with the armed forces of the Philippines so that, in fact, the national security agenda is not only national security, but it becomes a national transformation agenda. And very interesting, last week, I sat down with the SEC. They're very much in favor of gathering together all of our publicly listed companies and make them as a solidarity network to get the Philippines out of the bottom of the list when it comes to capital market development and financial market development.
Do you think we might lose our BBB credit rating from the S&P because of what's happened?
Yeah,
That we
of
might
course.
lose our BBB credit rating?
Yeah. Francis Lim is doing a great job in the SEC, and he is pushing for financial literacy, inclusion, outreach to MSMEs, and then making sure that, in fact, corporations are not interested in just compliance with corporate governance rules, but would now focus on ESG. Now, ESG means environmental, social, and governance issues, which means anti-poverty and anti-corruption. That is what the country needs.
So there's still a chance we can maintain the
We
BBB
can
credit
make
rating?
it. Give us a national leadership that will focus on these three platforms of human resources, natural resources, and our financial and capital markets. We can make this country probably the envy of ASEAN. In 10 years, we can do it. Instead of growing at 5%, it's easy to move the Philippine economy. Knowing what we have done with our OFWs and the BPO sector, we can do it. And instead of growing at 2-3%, which is kawawa, we're now growing at 5%. Now, can we jump to 10? Yes, by doing a transformation roadmap with respect to our financial and capital markets, we can do it. And the private sector and the public sector are getting together in a solidarity network. What do we do with our human resources? It's amazing what we can get out of our human resources. And finally, our natural resources, which have been largely untapped. Take a look at what has happened with the public works projects involving flood control. Babe Singson has been crying out to the highest heavens. Let's put all of that money together and make sure that we have a comprehensive development of all of our 7 river basins in the Philippines. Will be a source of water for all Filipinos and for all Philippine industry. And we might even be able to export our water. The money is there. He's been saying, just give me 20% of that money that has been so-called programmed for flood control. We can solve our water problem. We can solve our irrigation problem. We can solve our flood control need. And then we can even raise the productivity of agriculture because we can direct it towards proper irrigation.
Much work to do, but it's a good start with the governance scorecard. Thank you so much, Dr. Jess. I much appreciate the insights.
It can be done.
Well, Dr. Jess Estanislao there of the Institute for Solidarity in Asia. You're watching Money Talks. Coming right up, the Philippines on track to secure a single A credit rating within 10 years. Details after the break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. The Development Budget Coordination Committee says the Philippines is on track to secure a single A credit rating within the decade. This as sustained fiscal reforms and strong economic growth continue to boost investor confidence and foreign support. Finance Secretary Ralph Recto earlier said the Philippines was set for an upgrade from BBB Plus to A- this year, if not for the corruption scandal involving DPWH flood control projects. Recto said a downgrade is unlikely, but said the likelihood of an upgrade was higher before the controversy. Still, the DBCC believes ongoing economic diversification will help the Philippines reach a single A rating soon. Strong earnings from financial firms, including Bank of America, as well as cooling U.S.-China trade tensions, lifted markets last Friday. The Dow, the S&P 500, and the Nasdaq all up by over 0.5%. Benchmark 10-year Treasury yields reclaimed some ground, ticking up to 4.006%. Gold prices took a breather, settling at $4,189 per troy ounce. U.S. futures point to slight gains when the markets open later tonight, Manila time. The S&P and the Nasdaq both up by 0.2%, while the Dow rises by 0.8%. Asian markets are a mixed bag as China keeps its benchmark lending rate steady. Japan's Nikkei 225 is up by nearly 2.5%, and South Korea's Kospi rises by 0.4%, and Australia's ASX 200 falls by 0.8%. And a quick check on our own markets at the start of this trading week. PSEI opens this Monday higher by 0.33% at 6,110. The local bourse ended Friday's session in the red due to the lack of fresh leads. Analysts forecast trading to move sideways this week, but with an upward bias due to easing U.S.-China tensions and the upcoming corporate earnings results. As for the Philippine peso, it opens today a tad weaker, 58.19 to the dollar. Peso slid last Friday by 3 centavos to 58.16 against the greenback. 10-year government bond yields ticked up to 5.952%. The Philippine Stock Exchange is moving forward with its planned revisions to its index policy. The local board said discussions with key stakeholders are ongoing, with the new rules expected to take effect next year. PSC President and CEO Ramon Monzon said they are still reviewing feedback from fund managers, brokers, and financial institutions before finalizing the changes. Among the proposed adjustments is a possible easing of the public float rule, allowing companies valued at least 120 billion pesos to remain in the main index. That's even if only 15% of their shares are publicly traded, down from the current 20% requirement. The PSC assured that any revisions will be announced in due course, giving stakeholders enough time to adapt to the new policy. And in corporate news, Metro Pacific Investments Corp Chair and CEO Manuel V. Pangilinan says he is eyeing to expand the group's hospital network to 50 facilities in the next 5 years. Pangilinan said acquisitions remain part of the Metro Pacific Health's expansion plans, which already count to 28 hospitals, including its latest Metro Antipolo Hospital and Medical Center. MPIC is also working to regain control of Metro Pacific Health through buying back a 30% stake currently held by investors KKR and Singapore's GIC. MPIC and Signal, the owner of this channel, are both part of the MVP Group. That is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Kapatid, we are One News, all the sides, all the time. Have a great day ahead.